Hey, hello guys. So, as per our last session, in the last part, we have learned how to take the data from different sources, and even we have seen the import modes. What query mode we can use. It can be import mode, direct query mode, or the live connection mode. So we have seen all those three, and we are now good inside that. So today, what we need to discuss about is like query performance issues. Sometimes what happens is let's say we I'm importing data from Excel, I'm importing data from SQL Server, I'm importing data from maybe SSAS or from Azure Analysis Services or from any other online services. Okay, so whichever data source we are using in, but when we move to Power Query Editor for transforming data, I have already opened it. When we use the Power Query Editor for transforming the data, sometimes we see that when we apply filters, when we done the transformations and we click on close and apply, and we come back to our Power BI window and we start putting up start creating the visualizations and putting up the fields in the filter pane, and we see that some of the tables they are processing very fast, some of the tables they are processing very fast, the filters are giving result very fast, but some of them they are working very slow. So there are some points which we need to take care when we work on this get data part plus the Power Query Editor part. So that's what we need to discuss here to fix some performance issues which has to be taken care inside the Power Query Editor. Okay, so that's what the agenda of today's session. If I open up this a slide which I have created for this purpose to talk about the optimize the query performance in Query Editor, in the Power Query Editor, the query folding. It's a very, I can say, one of the biggest important question in Power BI, and a very important concept as well: query folding and query diagnostics. So let's talk about them one by one. So as I was telling you that I'm considering a scenario where we are doing the analysis for a retail a retail analysis retail company, where we got the data from SQL Server database, and we are using the direct query mode. But we see that some of the filters and transformations, filters and visualizations, they are getting data from the tables very fast. But some of the tables they are working very slow. Some of the filters are working very slow. So what can be the reason for that? So how to optimize the query performance? That's what we need to talk about in today's session. For that, there is a very important process named as query folding. Okay. So what exactly is the meaning of query folding? So see, when we perform these transformations, let me explain you in a very basic way. I'll keep this slide open. So what you can do is you can go through the content as well. But what I mean to say in a very basic way is whatever transformations you are performing. For example, you are performing the transformations such as renaming the columns. Let's say we have two columns as city and state. For example, consider we have two columns. One is city, one is state. Now, what you are doing inside Power Query Editor, you are merging them into a single column city state. Instead of that, if you think that this column get merged in the query editor itself, in the when we are getting data from the source itself, that means the we are getting the merged column from the source data directly. Okay, so if we are doing some merging, if we are doing some appending of the data, filtering, grouping your data, these kind of operations, if that these operations can take place at the native query place itself, that means at the source itself. That is exactly the meaning of query folding. That's what the example I was talking about. So we have a scenario where we need to merge two columns of sales data set, city and state, into a single column of city state. So instead of merging it into Power BI, into Power Query Editor, if we can get it merged from the source itself, then it will definitely will be very helpful. Okay, instead of merging it into Power Query Editor. So that's why the query folding, that's what the exact meaning of query folding. Query folding says that what transformations you are applying on your on your data set after you import the data set into either a direct query mode or an import mode, whatever you are using. But when you are after taking the data in Power Query Editor, if you do the transformations over there, instead of that, if those transformations can take place at the native place itself, definitely it will make the refresh and the filtering of the data very fast. Okay, so what exactly these the points which I'm explaining here. These are the two biggest benefits which we get from query folding. It makes the data refresh and incremental load very fast. What is exactly the meaning of incremental refresh? That we, let's say, suppose I have refreshed the data today at 7 p.m. So next tomorrow when I'll refresh the data, I want the newly inserted data to be refreshed only. Okay, and the newly updated data to be refreshed only. So that is an incremental refresh. We'll talk about that in a practical way in coming up sessions later on. So what benefits we get in through this query folding? These process makes very fast. Okay, because we are not doing the transformations locally inside Power BI. We are doing the transformations in the native query place itself. So we are getting the transform data only, and we are just doing the refresh directly inside the Power BI. Okay, so definitely it is very fast. And if you are using the direct query mode, it always gives the benefit in this way. So that's why in when we are discussing about the storage modes, I already told you about using the direct query mode. Okay, so now the question comes in the mind that how will I come to know that my query folding is appearing into my transformations or not? We, let's say, suppose we have done some transformations. So for example, if you can see in this image, we have the source data, we have the navigation, then we have promoted the headers, then we have changed data type of the column, as we have changed the data type of a certain column. If you right click on your applied step, if you right click on the applied step, it will show you this this window will this wizard will appear. So inside this menu, in the inside these options, you can find one option, view native query. Until and unless this option gets enabled, that means the query folding is not occurring into your transformation. So you can go back, you can stop doing these operations, you can go back and you can check out the place where this option is enabled. The view native query option is enabled. We have some certain limitations on which the query folding cannot occur. I'll show you that list as well, but that's a very important way to recognize whether query folding is occurring into your transformations or not. So if you right click on the applied step name, if you find this option of view native query enabled, that means the query folding is occurring for this particular step. If not, that means the query folding is not occurring here for this particular option. Okay, so what are those operations which I am talking about? uh, uh, the view native query, as I already told, you can see the description here as well. And what are those options which I was talking about, which does not allow the query folding operations in Power Query? So for example, adding an index column into your table, merging and appending the data from different tables, merging and appending data from two different tables into a single column from two different sources. Okay, changing the data type of an existing column, running complex DEX functions. These are some operations which will not allow the query folding to occur. These has to be taken place in Power Query editor itself. But as a good developer, we should always take care of, we should try to perform as much operations as we can in the native query place itself. Okay, it will help to load the data very fast. Okay, and refresh and the incremental refresh, as I already do. So you can see here we can do some. These are the operations in which we can apply the query folding options like group by, sort by, where, union all, and join. They can be used for the query folding options. Okay, so we should write. First of all, we should use the select SQL statements in the queries, as I have discussed previously. How to use the select SQL statements at the time of importing the data, at the time of connecting to your data source. How we should use the select statements, and these options of group by, how much we should use these operations. Okay, they apply query folding on the operations. So I hope you are clear. If I summarize in a small way, a query folding is something like that, which is asking Power Query to the transformations which you are doing in Power Query. It is getting placed at the native query place itself. So you can say in another language, you are getting the transform data itself. Okay, so it will not be required to first get the connection in Power BI, load data either if you are in import mode, and then do the transformations. So it will make this process very longer and very slow as well. So that's how the query folding helps us. Okay, there are some definitely other operations as well which we can do. Let me show you how we can do some other operations as well to fix the performance issues. But one of them is query folding, which is very important. So as we have discussed till here, this is how the query folding works. Definitely, if you will feel any questions on that, please feel free to ask. We'll discuss that in more details. Okay, and now we'll move forward for some other things. For example, if I go back to my Power Query editor, if I go back to the Power Query editor where we already have the data set on which we are working on. So if you go to the view menu bar, if you go to this view menu bar, you can find these, there are some data preview options. You can find some data preview options. I want to say that, okay, I want to find out the quality of my columns, how they are looking into each and every table. I want to have a look on the quality of the column. So for example, if I click on this checkbox of column quality, so what exactly is happening? I'm on to dim date table right now. So what exactly is happening? You can see here from your column list, you can find out what how many valid records we have, how many error we have in the records, how many empty values are there. That means the null values. So we don't have any such column into this table. But if we go to the fact sales table, okay, and we do the same operation of column quality, it is just selecting them here. Okay, maybe we don't have any issues here as well, but in some places you can find them. Okay, it will show you that how many error values you have, how many values are valid. Okay, that's fine, that we are good with this data set, we don't have any such values. But in case if you have, it will showcase you that which are the how many null values you have in your table. So you can find out the anomalies of your data from here, that how many null values I have, how many error values we have in the data set, how many percentage of values are there. Right now this is a good data set and we have good values occurring, but that is how it helps you. So you can find out the columns which are having a lot of problems, and then you can, from a huge data set, you can go on to that particular column to find out what are the exact anomalies, how many nulls are there, we can resolve those and all that stuff. Okay, so now what are these two options are, if I click on the column profile as well, so if I click on this particular column profile as well, so it will show me that how many distinct values I have, how many unique values I have. That's a very important point. Distinct and unique, these two are two different points. Unique means these are the unique values. If your unique and distinct are not matching, that means we have the duplicate values in that data in that particular column. If your column distinct and unique are matching, that means we don't have any duplicate values in that particular column. We can find out some statistics over the column. What is the minimum value? What is the maximum value? Average. Okay, count how many total values we have. If there are any null or empty values, it will show it here as well. So this is statistics related to my column. Okay, you can go to any of the column and you can start finding up such a points. You can find it here 12 distinct, unique 0. That means the value in this particular column is repeated. You can see here as well. You can see that in this particular column the values are repeated. Yes, it is repeated. Okay, we can find out what is the maximum value, what is the average, and all the other statistics as well. How many even odd values, if it is a numerical column, because it was a date column, so it was not showing us the even odd value. In the numerical column, we'll find the even odd ratio as well. Okay, so we can perform all these operations on any of the column. Okay, so now if I go to for this particular operation, if I go to fact sales table, and if I check the profile of a particular column, let's say not this column, I want to check the profile of revenue column. So I'll get the exact statistics which are there on a numeric value. The average, max, min, zero, how many zero values are there, how many unique, how many distinct. These are two not matching. That means the value are duplicated. That's fine. Inside a revenue column, it should be duplicated. It can be duplicated, but we are getting the other statistics as well, whatever required. That helps a lot. Okay, and the last one we have is the column distribution. So what exactly is this column distribution? It will show us that how many same thing it will get here as well, that how many total distinct values we have and how many unique values we have. If we are interested only to check that the unique and the distinct values, we can find it from here. Okay, that how many distinct values inside the column and how many unique values inside the column. That means if they are not matching, as I already told, that means we have the duplicated data. 86% of the values are unique and 14% of the values we are having the duplicate values as well. Okay, so we can go for any particular column and we can check out. So these columns, when you before you start creating the reports inside Power BI, these columns helps you to recognize the problem inside your tables, inside the columns, what problems you have, and then you can do then you can perform the replace operations, or you can remove the unwanted values, so that when you start creating the reports, unwanted data will not be there, and it will help you to create the reports very fast. So I hope these will be clear with all of you. How I came here, let me repeat in a small way. I clicked on the view menu bar, go to your particular table which you want to check for. The column quality, it shows us how many valid values are there, how many errors, how many empty values are, null values are there in the percentage wise. The column distribution, it shows us this graph in the graphical way, and how many distinct and unique values you have. So I think you are clear with this concept of distinct and unique. And what exactly is column profile? It is related to the statistics about the column. So if you remove this, it will not show the statistics. If you want to see the statistics of any particular column, go to the column and click on this column profile button. It will show the statistics of that particular column. So you can find out every statistical values from here. Okay. And now one more thing which we have is a tools. What is this tool now related to? This is related to start diagnostics. Okay. So now what is this start diagnostic tool? See, when we need to take that, when we are refreshing the data, this takes place when we are refreshing the data. So at that time, we can start the diagnostics. We can check that how many time it is taking to refresh the data, how many this diagnostic tools. If you need to, when you are in the refresh mode, you need to click on the start diagnostics. It will give you the diagnostic reports when you are in the refresh mode. And then once you are done, you will click on stop diagnostics. So this will be recorded that how many time it has taken and how many steps have been done in the diagnostics process. So that's how this diagnostic tool also helps. So it will help you to identify which columns are there, which tables are there, which is taking a larger time to get refreshed, what are the anomalies inside the data, and such these kind of points. Okay, so that is also sometimes very helpful. So keep those points in the mind as well. So if we go back here, that's what this slide is all talking about. I'll request you to go through these points. Some other techniques to optimize the query performance, apart from the query folding, apart from these three options of column distribution, column profile, and column statistics. Apart from that, what other options we have to when we are loading the data into when we are connecting to the data source, which we should take care of. So these are some three other points as well, which you should take care. Okay, while you are loading the data, that process as much as I already said, process as much as possible inside the native place at the original data source itself. Try to perform the transformations at the native place itself. So the query folding can take place, and it will help you to refresh the data very fast. Okay, so the transformations such as renaming the column, the transformations such as choosing the particular data type, transformations such as merging the two columns, these things should take place at the source itself. Okay, to use native SQL queries, definitely we should always prefer to go for direct query mode. We have already talked about it. If it is possible to go for a direct query mode, we should go for it. And if you are connecting with SQL server, if you are connecting, that is a very common data source when we connect when we work on Power BI. The SQL server is a very one of the common data source. So we should use the concepts of stored procedures. We should use the concepts of views, CTs. We should prefer them to get the data. Okay, that gives the result faster. Okay, and suppose in case if we have a column related to the date data type, and in case if we have the date time value stored together, we should always separate them into two columns. The date and time values should be separated into two columns if it is bound together into a single column. We should separate them into two columns instead of keeping that place into a single column. So keep that point also in the mind. Okay, so that's all about this performance improvement and in Power Query, how it will help. So let's have some questions here to check your level of knowledge, what you have learned from this module 3. Okay, so take your time and answer these questions. I think you must have answered this question. I hope all of you must have able to answer this question. Yes, definitely TSQL. When you're fetching the data, extracting data from Microsoft SQL Server, we should go for TSQL expressions. The next one. You're creating a Power BI report with data from an Azure analysis services. When the data refreshes in the cube, you would like to see it immediately in the Power BI report. How should you connect? If you remember, we have discussed about this. What exactly the mode of connectivity when we are connecting to Microsoft Azure analysis services or SQL Server analysis services. I hope all of you are in touch with that point. Yes, connect live. Very good. Must be the answer for this question. We should use import mode when we are definitely importing data from from Excel, from CSVs and all text files and all that stuff. We have to go for import mode. Okay, but we should skip import mode when we are connecting from SQL Server or from Azure Analysis Services or from SSAS, these sources. Okay, so if we are using from databases like SQL Server, we should prefer to go for direct query. But if we are connecting to analysis services, either SQL Server Analysis Services or Azure Analysis Services, we should prefer to go for Connect Live. Yeah, next question, what you can do to improve performance when you are getting data in Power BI? So please have a look on all these options which just discussed right now. So if we talk about these options, do some calculations in the original data source, no. Only pull data into Power BI service, not Power BI desktop, that is not possible. Use the select SQL statement in your SQL queries when you're pulling data from a rational list. Yes, we should use the select SQL statement when we are fetching the data from SQL server. Okay, and getting data in Power BI. And combined it, that's just opposite. We should not combine. If they're combined, we should separate them. Okay, so that is just opposite. So that's it for this third module. We are done with the third module now. If we summarize all the points which we have covered into this third module, we started the agenda of this module when we learned how to get data from different sources into Power BI. We have connected data from Microsoft Access database. We have connected data from Excel file. We have connected data from SQL Server. We have connected data from a JSON file. We have learned how to connect to SSAS or Azure Analysis Services. What are the different connectivity modes? What are the differences between them? And when we should prefer which mode to use? Okay. And then what are the steps we should perform when we are doing these transformations? And when we are connecting to the data, what steps we should perform so that our performance of the report will be faster. Okay, the data can be refreshed faster and the data can be loaded faster into the visualizations. So I hope so that all of you will got these points. If any queries, please let me know. Thank you so much. And next session, we are now moving forward. We are ready to go forward and talk about all the transformations into Power Query Editor. So we'll learn how to perform all these transformations in the Power Query Editor in the module 4. Thank you so much. Connect for any question. Bye-bye.